Remember this because it's critical. SWIFT, the very backbone of the global banking system connecting over 11,000 banks worldwide, has already successfully tested XRP within its network. And what that means for the future of finance cannot be overstated because we're not talking about speculation anymore. We're not talking about maybe or someday. We are talking about proven, real-world integration, where the world's largest financial messaging system has taken XRP for a test drive and confirmed that it works, that it settles instantly, that it reduces costs dramatically, and that it has the scalability to handle the vast river of liquidity that flows across global finance every single day. And to put this into perspective, SWIFT handles well over $5 trillion per day in cross-border value transfers. And if even a fraction of that were to be routed through the XRP ledger, the demand shock to XRP would be unlike anything we've ever seen in digital assets. Because this isn't retail hype, this isn't a meme coin story. This is the backbone of the world economy moving to adopt a solution designed specifically for this purpose. And Ripple has spent years building relationships, proving compliance, working with regulators, and engineering XRP to be the bridge asset that can connect banks, central banks, and payment providers seamlessly, while SWIFT itself has been under immense pressure, facing criticism for its outdated system that can take days to settle transactions, costing institutions billions in inefficiencies every year. And this is why XRP stands out, because it doesn't just compete, it solves the core problems: settlement speed, liquidity bottlenecks, and the need for a neutral, decentralized bridge currency that isn't tied to any one nation's monetary policy. And now, with SWIFT having tested XRP across its network of 11,000 institutions, the path to adoption has moved from possible to inevitable. Because once a system as large as SWIFT validates that the technology works, the conversation shifts from can it be done to when will it be done. And this is where the future for XRP holders becomes historic. Because with each successful pilot, each confirmation that XRP works better than the legacy system, the odds of XRP becoming the global standard increase. And what's even more fascinating is that these tests are not happening in isolation. They're part of a wider trend where central banks are exploring CBDCs, institutions are preparing for tokenized assets, and trillions of dollars in real estate, commodities, bonds, and equities are being readied for tokenization on distributed ledgers. And XRP is uniquely positioned as the neutral bridge that can connect all of these worlds. And imagine the magnitude here. 11,000 banks connected to SWIFT already exist as a captive audience, already dependent on SWIFT infrastructure. And once the upgrade path includes XRP integration, there's no stopping the flood of liquidity that will move across the XRPL. And we're talking about not just billions but trillions of dollars in value flowing across a system designed to settle in seconds. And the tokenomics of XRP, limited supply, deflationary through burn mechanisms, and growing demand from both institutional and retail users, means that the price cannot stay where it is once adoption accelerates, because the fundamentals themselves demand repricing to match utility. And this is why you see analysts projecting XRP not in single digits, not in double digits, but into the hundreds or even thousands per coin once global banking adoption hits scale. Because when 11,000 banks start moving even a fraction of their daily liquidity through XRP, the multiplier effect on volume and demand is unprecedented. And what we must remember is that SWIFT has always been cautious, slow to adapt, but the fact that they have already tested XRP proves that the tide is turning. And in the world of institutional finance, once the domino falls, it triggers a chain reaction. Because no bank wants to be left behind in terms of settlement efficiency, cost savings, and competitive advantage. And if one bank adopts XRP, its competitors will follow. And once that happens, the system as a whole shifts irreversibly. And at that point, XRP isn't just a digital asset, it's the plumbing of the new financial order, a universal settlement layer embedded at the core of how money moves around the globe. And this is why when people say XRP is a banker's coin, they misunderstand the scope. It's not about pleasing banks, it's about replacing inefficiency with efficiency, replacing friction with speed, replacing outdated systems with a future-proof solution. And SWIFT's successful test of XRP within its network of over 11,000 banks is the flashing neon sign that this future isn't a dream. It's already underway, and if you're holding XRP, you're holding the bridge currency to the new world financial system. BlackRock XRP ETF update breaking across the financial world as the biggest asset manager on Earth moves closer to launching a product that could fundamentally transform the entire digital asset landscape. And yet this news arrives at a moment of turmoil, because crypto prices have collapsed once again, sending shockwaves through the market with Bitcoin plunging sharply and altcoins bleeding across the board. But amid the pain, a far bigger story is emerging. A story that revolves around the United States formulating an official plan to save crypto itself. A plan that not only protects American innovation and capital markets, but also recognizes digital assets as the future of money and the bedrock of a new global economy. This is where the XRP ETF comes into play, because BlackRock, with more than $10 trillion in assets under management, does not move without strategy, and they do not build products around assets they do not see as critical to the future. When they push for an XRP ETF, it signals that the smartest money in the room understands that XRP is more than a token. It is a bridge currency, a global settlement layer, and a piece of infrastructure that can support the entire monetary system in the decades to come. But the collapse in prices is not an end. It is a reset, because history shows that every major crash has preceded an even greater bull run. And if the United States is truly preparing to launch a national framework that incorporates Bitcoin into reserves while providing regulatory clarity to Ripple and XRP holders, the stage is being set for the greatest alt season in history. Picture it: BlackRock greenlighted to launch the XRP ETF, Wall Street funds flowing billions of dollars into the token that powers cross-border payments, while simultaneously the US government announces Bitcoin will play a strategic role as a reserve asset, giving it the legitimacy of gold but with digital flexibility. That creates a 1-2 punch that cannot be ignored. Foundation of Bitcoin as a reserve and XRP as the bridge for global liquidity flows. This is a future where every altcoin of value is pulled higher as capital rushes into the sector, and the market explodes into an alt season that dwarfs anything seen before. The collapse we are living through now is the cleansing fire, the shakeout designed to remove weak hands, to drain speculative excess, and to prepare the ground for massive Wall Street inflows and institutional control. When the smoke clears, the products backed by BlackRock, Vanguard, and the biggest asset managers will stand strong, because they are not building for speculation, they are building for infrastructure. And BlackRock's interest in an XRP ETF proves that XRP is infrastructure, not hype. Add to this the reality that the United States is now signaling support for a regulated digital asset market after years of ambiguity and aggression, and you can see why this pivot is earth-shattering. The narrative is shifting from whether crypto will survive to how crypto will be managed at the highest levels of global finance. And if Bitcoin is about to be embedded in reserves while Ripple's XRP is positioned through BlackRock to capture global payment flows, then altcoins will benefit from the biggest capital migration the world has ever seen. Wall Street cannot afford to miss this, the US government cannot afford to ignore this, and global institutions cannot afford to fall behind. The collapse we see today is the prelude to a new era, a moment when crypto will transition from speculative to strategic, and XRP will be at the center, because when BlackRock puts its name behind a product, the world takes notice. This is the quiet signal that the future is already decided. The collapse is painful, but it is temporary, the structural adoption is permanent, and the next alt season that rises from this moment will be led by XRP, powered by BlackRock, backed by the United States, and energized by trillions of dollars of capital shifting from legacy markets into the digital economy. The final phase of this transition is underway. The questions are no longer whether crypto will survive but who will control it. And all signs point to a future where Bitcoin holds the role of digital reserve, XRP functions as the universal bridge, and BlackRock alongside the United States government shepherds in the biggest altcoin season the world has ever seen, a season that is now on the horizon.